Hello, beloved listeners. This is Adrienne Marie Brown, writer of stories and songs, emergent strategist, and pleasure activist, living in the land of the Shakori, Skarure, Tuscarora, Lumbee, Eno, and Occaneechi peoples. And this is How to Survive the End of the World, our podcast about learning from apocalypse with grace, rigor, and curiosity. When I say our, of course, I'm including my co-host and sister Autumn, who is currently on sabbatical. In her absence, and in honor of my book, Fables and Spells, I'm going full witch this season. And I'm having conversations with some of my favorite witches. And I will also read you little bits and pieces from the book at the end of each one. By witch, what do I mean? I'm talking about people who work with the elements of the natural world, including our human nature, to generate more possibilities. Witching is engaging the essential natural world with magic or supernatural intentions. Some names for what I'm including in witch work: shamanism, sorcery, healing, seeing, herbalism, midwifery and doula labor, root work, conjuring, ritual, spell casting, astrology, divination, sound baths, altar building, song channeling, building a direct relationship in some way with the realm of spirit, the holy, the ethereal. I'm very excited because my guest today is someone who I have been on her podcast and I've done some magic on her side of the road, and now she's coming on over. Jessica Lanyadoo is an astrologer, a psychic medium, an animal communicator, a tarot reader, and the host of Ghost of a Podcast, as well as the author of Astrology for Real Relationships. Jessica, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Oh, I'm so overjoyed to be here.
I like to add a little bit of flavor, like personal flavor to each of these. And I'm like, people should know I was on Jessica's podcast last year and we stayed on for an extra, like 45 minutes because I was like, I want a love download that is private. And it was so eerily spot on. Like it's been so helpful for the last, 6 months it's been. I've been walking around being like, no, Jessica said, no, not you, sir. And not you, ma'am. You need to back away and you should come closer. And I'm non-monogamous and so on and so forth. So thank you so much.
It's been so
my
happy.
Tail is wagging. I'm living in quite an abundant scenario of love and pleasure these days. So thank you so much.
That makes me so happy to hear. Of course, what I do, I'm not always giving good news that people are really thrilled to hear. So it's such a joy to hear that your tail is wagging.
I'm having overall good things. Good things.
Great.
So today we're going to get to a bunch of witchy shit. But first, I always like to just start with, how are you today, right now?
I'm good. I pause because the world is, to say that I'm concerned is a vast understatement. But I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm doing good. Yeah. I'm a triple Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising.
That's a big deal.
It's a lot of consequence.
Yeah.
I'll say that. It's a lot of consequence. So, but I'm sitting here talking to you, and that makes me happy. And my garden is happy for all the rain we've had. So, can't complain. I can. Yeah. Again, I'm a triple Capricorn.
I totally could, and I'm choosing not to. Yeah. I'm really choosing to be in the what if nothing's wrong mode of life, right? Which is amazing. Not to discount that there is injustice and oppression and climate crises and all of that. But it's all of the things I can see that I'm like, that's wrong, are the inevitable outcomes of bad decisions that our species has been making that I know in my own personal life, I'm like, I need consequences to help me course correct. And I'm like, I think at a collective level right now, there's a massive course correction happening. And I'm like, this is the course correct. We need to be aware, and we need the wheat and the chaff to separate. And we need to know who's interested in a future on this planet And all of that is happening. All of that is happening.
Yeah.
Me personally today, I've been feeling a little, so I'm like I'm feeling a little ice creamy, and
Ice creamy.
like, I'm like, all I really want to eat is ice cream. And I'm not supposed to have ice cream, and it's not my period. So I'm not sure why it's like such an ice creamy moment right now. It's really interesting.
Interesting.
It's like, I just want to comfort myself. And I think what I'm going to do when we get off of this call is go hop in the bath, because the bath is this sort of like opposite, but intensely comforting thing I can do.
Yeah.
I
love that
just
idea.
like dive head first into the ice cream, right?
Eat all the ice cream.
I tried the method where I was like, just give yourself a taste. And I was like, I had a taste. And I was like, it's too good. I want all of it.
Ice cream is delicious. Yeah. And when you eat ice cream, are you eating like store-bought ice cream, or are you like Vitamix, avocado,
No, that's
frozen fruit?
I'm so in this moment. So there's this one brand of ice cream called Jenny's, and the founder of Jenny's is someone we connected on Instagram, and she was like, I want to send you some of my ice creams. I was like, you don't have to say that twice. They're delicious. So I've given away some of what she sent. She sent me like enough ice cream for a family of 8. And I feel like the gift of that. So I've been giving away some, but then I kept some for myself. And so it's like very high end, high quality, but high milk fat, like ice cream. Right. And while I was traveling recently, I did do the thing, like avocado it can turn my stomach. I have to be really careful with it. I might be able to do like blended banana, that kind of thing, but that's not what I'm wanting, right? When you're in the zone where you're like, I don't want the fake. I want the actual, like, Yep. So, and when that happens, there's something in me too, that's like, do you need calcium? Like, what's actually going on here? Mm-hmm. Right. Which part of me is reaching for that? But anyway, that's what's going on today. It's feeling kind of ice creamy out in these streets. And I'm also really doing well. And like, this is one of the things I've been tracking, is how to notice when I'm doing well and I still want to be involved in behaviors that are not necessarily the best for my body. And like how I'm trying to reset myself to be like, I'm doing really good. Why don't I treat my body really good? Also, that would be so bomb.
That's a beautiful redirect.
Yes. It's not easy.
And it's these kinds of habits, they're so ingrained that it takes so much time to build them. And it sometimes takes just as much time to unfold them. And I think we get really impatient with ourselves. We're like, I know better. I should do better. But knowing in your head and knowing in your body are two different things.
And I think you'll really get a hold of this, which is like, the whole idea for me is I'm trying to cultivate trust in my body and cultivate listening to my body. But I was socialized to do things that are untrustworthy to my body and up from, so it's like some of the longings that I feel that come up from my body. I'm like, I can't trust that longing, or I can't trust that craving, and trying to be in the dance of knowing when it's like, that craving is going to lead to a massive stomach ache and painful gas and like not cute energy and feeling oily on my skin. And like, I know that in my brain, but this other brain is like, but the taste, it's going to taste the taste. So this is still a taste. And so, part of me is also like, I don't know, at some point I'm just like, do you outgrow your taste buds? Like what happens? But it's also like, learning to trust and discern. Like, I'm like,
spoken like a Virgo.
I just need to discern. Yeah. My Virgo, okay. So anyway, enough about that. I have so many questions for you. And I am really, so when I set out to do this, I was like, I know a ton of people who I think of as witches, who may or may not identify as witches themselves, or that might not be something that's at the top of their bios for socio-political reasons or for identity reasons or for whatever. So the first thing I'm asking people is like, I know that I think of you as a witch and I call you a witch, but how do you identify the work that you do? What language do you use for it?
So I am politically identified as a witch because I understand the world we live in. And I'm a witch in that world. But I don't personally identify as a witch. And there's probably a lot of reasons for it, but I think the biggest one is when I think about witches, I think about a lot of times group work. I think about very specific practices. I tend to associate it with like people who come from Christian backgrounds, although I know that's not true.
Yeah.
There's witches of all backgrounds, but I have that association, which is wrong, but whatever. It's association.
It's in there. Yeah.
It's just my association. Yeah. And it's just, I don't even know. It just is not my personal practice. You know, so I do identify as an astrologer and a psychic medium and an animal communicator and a teacher. And although teacher is a little bit of a looser identification, a tarot reader, you know, like I have a lot of things that I do professionally. I have a lot of things that I do personally that I don't do professionally. And some of those things I talk about in public and some of those things I keep private, because I think when it comes to energy work and magic, something that gets lost in this very digital age that we're living in is many of these things need to be kept sacred and private. And that there's so much power in privacy. And we do not need to disclose all of our damn details and all of our practices.
That's right.
And it's not something that I think, you know, enough people have a sense of ownership to do because of the current conditions we're living in, of everybody sharing everything all the time. Yeah.
I really love that. I mean, I love the nuance of the political versus the personal. I love how, just like a certain imprint, you know, can be like, not for me, but you know, I do the things I don't claim that piece. And then I love this piece around privacy. I think for such a long time, I was like, I do this stuff. This is just part of my private life. This is just part of how I live. And part of what I've been trying to figure out is, does my instinct towards privacy come from the danger of what this work has been? Or as you said, sometimes it's just like, especially when I'm doing when people come to my home and receive the healing work that I offer, I'm like, this is between you and me. This is private. And it's I'm like, I don't charge for this. If you want to make an offer, you can, but this is something else that I have to do, And so I really appreciate that, because I'm like, I get nervous when I see online, like, here's how to do this thing or this, that, even as someone who's like, part of my work in this world is to shine a light into the secret places, into the places where people, like, part of it is to be like, how do we eradicate shame in this area while still having privacy? Right. And so I think that's part of what, this season for me is really about, and Fables and Spells is really about. It's like, I am a witch. I do it in more ways than I'll ever talk about out loud. And a lot of it, no one will ever see. I'm not going to perform it for you. And many of the most powerful people in the world right now that I'm connected to are in similar practice. Right. So I really appreciate this. So when did you feel like you were first drawn to the work that you do? Where did you consciously begin?
I would say, like, there's two levels I could answer that on. I remember being on my Hot Wheels in 1979. So I was about like 4 years old. And
what color was your Hot Wheels?
Yellow, red, and blue. Thank you for asking.
Yes, I needed to know.
Yeah, it was an excellent question. And I remember thinking, well, I'm a Capricorn, and so I'm going to keep all my wisdom teeth.
Wait, as a kid, you already had I'm a Capricorn, and I know what that means.
I have no idea. So Capricorn and Saturn govern teeth, wisdom, and wisdom teeth. All three of those things. There's no way I could have known that. Like, there was never an adult who told me that. But I remember this really, you know how you have those like emblematic moments where you just have a thought, and I had this really clear thought. I'm going to keep my wisdom teeth, and I knocked on wood, but I'm almost 50 and I have all my wisdom teeth.
Keep them in your face.
Keep them in my face. You know what I do when they grow, when I feel them moving? I take my thumbs, they come free with my hands, and I shove them in my mouth and I push on my wisdom teeth. And I've told this to my dentist, and she's like, well, it's obviously working, because I push, because what are braces if not just
Pushing
metal
thinkers.
thumbs. Yeah,
Metal thumbs.
exactly. You're welcome. You just run with that. But
I love it.
it works.
Yeah.
It really works. So God willing, it'll work forever. But that was the first time. And then for my 12th birthday, so I was talking about astrology so much that for my 12th birthday, my mother bought me my first astrology book, and I studied it like it was a Bible.
Yeah.
And then when I was, I guess, 17, I was going to Cégep, which is Quebecois. I'm from Quebec, and in Quebec, we have a different school system. So, and Cégep is high school goes till grade 11, and then you have 2 years of Cégep, which is like, it was like $60 a semester. It's like cheap university. And I went to an alternative Cégep, and there was a Jungian psychologist who taught an introduction to astrology from a Jungian perspective. And I took that class, and it was the same time I was coming out of the closet, or I realized I was gay. I wasn't ever closeted. And then, and I was like, oh shit, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And I know there's like a big American stereotype of Jews. I'm Jewish, of Jews being like obsessed with education. My family is not. So the conversation of career and of education was never had in my life. I mean, I got in trouble if I failed, but that was the beginning and the end of it. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm 17, just came out of the closet. I'm in Montreal, Quebec. And I was like, oh, astrology. And so I decided then and there that I would move to San Francisco, because it was the early 1990s. So it was the only place you could be an astrologer that I was aware of. And again, I thought all the homosexuals would be there with like pride flags waving and being like, oh my God, are you maybe gay? Come. None of that is what happened, as a spoiler to my story. But I will say that like, those were like some kind of key moments. And then by the time I was 19, I packed my men's slacks and my astrology books. And I just came to San Francisco, and I dedicated my life to this. Since. Yeah, I'm in Oakland now, but same, right? Location wise, same vibes.
I mean, totally.
Geographically. So I started my private practice as soon as I got here. I joined astrology groups as soon as I got here, and within like a year of getting here. And I dedicated my whole life to the study and practice of astrology. And within that, I didn't believe in psychics. I didn't believe in anything like that. But eventually I started talking to dead people and knowing things psychically, and, talking to animals. Like all of those things developed more in my early 30s, early to mid 30s. So those things developed over time, but there was never a time that I wasn't what I am now. I just have been at different levels of education and competency of those things. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I was wondering, the conversations that we've had, I felt such a strong, the way that you see things beyond what you're told is really immense. And so I was curious. I was like, were you running around like a kid being like, look, mom, look, dad, like I could tell you about yourselves, or did the psychic capacity come in later?
It was there. It was there young, but I don't want you to be jealous, but
okay, I'll try not to.
I mean, try really hard. I am not sensitive to people's joy. I only feel people's pain. And I've always been like this.
Sweetheart.
I know you'd be super jealous.
I'm not, I know, I'm the opposite. I'm like, are you hurting?
I know. It's terrible. But I try to set it up that way so people don't feel too bad for me. But I've always been highly sensitized to people's pain. Yes. And so my psychic, I was having psychic knowledge as a child, but it all translated into pain and illness for me. So I was sick all the time, and I was like in a lot of emotional and mental pain a lot, in addition to physical pain. And when I realized I was psychic, I started to be able to have psychic boundaries, and that changed my life dramatically. And, and I think.
And you set those up in like right now, you probably are like, I'm boundary because I'm in an interview and I want to be able to Right.
I absolutely, before meeting with any human person,
Yes.
I set boundaries unless I forget, in which case I suffer usually
Yeah.
because, like for instance, I live with my partner and love my
Yeah.
partner. What a wonderful
Yeah.
human. But this motherfucker loves to
Yeah.
exercise. And when he exercises, he's sore. Now, I do not enjoy exercising, in part because I don't like being sore. And guess what? I have all the soreness of his exercising. Like I know what he did. I know what he overdid.
Wow.
I don't have any of the benefits, just the pain. So it's like, because I'm not constantly shielding around him, right? Or like
That's
setting
right.
boundaries. I'm not,
right.
I'm like letting go a lot, right?
Yep.
It's a real pain in the
Yeah.
ass. But
Literally.
that said, I making use of this is not only is it good for me to make use of it, but it's also like, it's a privilege to be able to meet people in a place of real naked truth.
Yeah.
I really like,
real.
Yeah, it's so real. And I think that there's like a way that psychics, astrologers, whatever, a lot of times because there's so much, I think, healthy skepticism, but then also really unhealthy skepticism, which is like, prove it to me, and that prove it to me comes from all kinds of people, but in my experience, primarily from intellectuals.
Yeah.
So people who think that they're open-minded, but they're so intellectual that they're constantly having to prove to themselves that they're smart enough to not believe in things.
Yes.
It's a very real issue. And
yeah.
In the early years of my practice, I felt like I had to prove myself. I had to justify what I was seeing or how I was seeing it or what I was saying. And what I've learned and developed through my practice is humility, where it is not about me. If I'm wrong, if I'm right, neither of it's about me,
Right.
And this, it's like whatever I see and I say, I drop it the second it's been said, like it's done for me, and which is something you and I've talked about a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. And it really helps. Like, I can't even tell you, it really helps.
I believe you. Well, I believe you. And I feel that, and I love you just anticipate, I was sitting here, I was like, I'm going to add an extra question about what to do with skeptics and with doubt, because I feel like, even for me, as someone who's like, I believe in magic and unicorns and everything, when I meet someone who has the power of gift that you have, I'm still like, oh yeah. Right. Like that's right. Yeah. And then I love when I'm like, oh no, like since you and I talked, I'm like, Jessica really has it. She's really got it, you guys. And like, Sonia and I, other people, we'll talk about, like, did you talk to Jessica? Because she's really got the thing. And, because I also know people who say they have it who don't.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And where I'm like, that has nothing to do with my life, whatever
totally.
it is.
Yes.
But I love it all. Right. I like the humility of, this is coming through. It's for you. And you're going to make of it what you make of it. Right. Yes. That's the other thing that you offer to me, is like this. Sometimes it's like, this is the specific thing to do. Sometimes it's just like, you need to think about this. And so this is the offer. So you said like no adult like sat down and kind of gave you guidance or instruction around this. Mm-hmm. And I find in my own intuitive witchy ways, there's still a lineage that I am able to draw on of thinkers and practitioners that came before me. So I would love to know, who do you find to be your ancestors or those who are in the lineage of the way that you do your work?
I really love that question. And I don't have a good answer. There's a woman I've been working with for a couple decades. Her name is Nikki Sachi, and she's an energy healer. And I wouldn't be the person I am without her magic and support and work. But the work I do is really different than the work she does. Mm-hmm. And, so the first 10 years of my practice as an astrologer, before I realized I was psychic and all this stuff, I kept my head down and I worked in a cave. Yeah, I really did. I like literally had a basement apartment, and I like studied and practiced and studied and practiced. And through not doing it in community, and this is pre-internet, right? So like the internet existed, but it wasn't really used in the way it is today at all. I developed my own way with astrology. And by the time I came out into the world more at around 30, my colleagues were like, wait, what? You're doing medical astrology. What way? Wait, what? Like people were not, I wasn't doing it the way everyone was doing it because I didn't know that there was a way that everyone was doing it because I wasn't in their spaces. And so in that way, I don't have like a lineage. I mean, there's astrology authors that I could name, but now that I've met them, I might not name them.
I understand that too.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Do you ever go to drink your coffee in the morning and you open up the cabinet where you pull out the mug that you're going to put your coffee in and you look at your mugs and you're like, these are all fine, but they don't really take me anywhere. They don't give me a sense of adventure. They don't give me a sense of connection to the universe. I want something more. If you've ever had that feeling, I'm with you. This is autumn, and there's a way that you can get a mug that gives you a sense of connection to the universe, that gives you a sense of adventure, that gives you a sense of, you know, like you're having coffee with me and Adrienne. And the way you can get it is by signing up to become a patron of our show. So if you go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/endoftheworldshow, you'll see all of these different tiers where you can become a sustaining member of our show. And one of those tiers gives you a gorgeous mug. There's other tiers as well. You can get a t-shirt, you can get a tote bag, you can get cute art that Adrienne made. No matter what tier you sign up at, you get access to the Ask Us Anything episodes that Adrienne and I record exclusively for patrons. The mug just happens to be very popular because it's a really transporting design. I think that's why. Anyway, now's a great time to join and consider supporting the show, because the only way that we're able to do this is through your support. You may have noticed we pretty much don't ever run ads on this show, and that's by choice. All right, just, think about it. Please go to patreon.com/endoftheworldshow. Thank you. Okay, let's get back into it.
And then what about people before our time? Like, do you feel like do you feel like this gift is one that kind of came down to you? Have you heard ever stories of?
It's such a great question. I think you're also like the only person who's actually asked me this question, which is weird because it's like, I think a question that a lot of people think of. I'm from refugees on both sides, and it's the lineages. I mean, you hold on to what you can for survival. You don't hold, like people didn't hold on to a lot of the stories. I had a stepmother who did all this like genealogical work on my dad's side. And she said that there were priestesses on my dad's side, were Iraqi Jews. But I haven't done that research myself, and I don't know. And I've heard no stories. And I really just don't, there's nothing that I'm connected to. And I will say that there's no direct lineage, and it's, I don't want to be like, the work that I do, I've worked really hard and practiced a lot, which I think comes across, but I will say it is a lot of what I've learned has felt like remembering.
Yes.
In addition to the labor of learning, right?
Same.
Yeah. And I feel like when that happens, it's like, is that directly connected to a lineage, or is it just connected to the self because you've done the work before? Like, this is like, another level of the work you're doing in this soul moment, right?
Yeah. I mean, I really think about this all the time, because I'm like, as someone who is in a displaced lineage, basically the majority of my lineage is forgotten, unknown, intentionally so, etc. I felt so liberated when I learned the terminology of intuitive witch, or, just being like, I'm an intuitive. I don't know exactly where it comes from, but I know it's in me and it's strong. And in me, it's so strong that it's like, you don't have to doubt this part, right? Like, you may have doubt about how how your song comes out or this other thing or something else, but you don't have to doubt, like, when someone comes and asks me for guidance, I don't have to doubt what comes in response to that. Like that has been very clear since I was very little. Right. And I really appreciate holding the line for that, because I think there's something healing about it for displaced and oppressed peoples to say, maybe I don't know what I would have known, you know, like if that displacement had not happened, there might've been a way that this book and this guidance and these ways were passed down. And I always feel this gratitude that I'm like, somehow it still got to me, right? Somehow it was in the DNA waiting to burst open, or it spiritually moved through, or it cycled back into being, but somehow it found its way.
Yeah. It's such a really powerful thing. And also it's a heartbreaking thing to know that records were intentionally burned and, you know, like that.
There was an attempt to erase us.
Yes. A very successful attempt, actually.
Yes.
I mean, you know, not at the end of the day, but, you know, very successful attempts. And humans are really such a dangerous animal. And I think that this is part of why, even though I see so many of my peers really being identified with lineages, for me, it's just kind of like, I learned very young not to bother looking back for that kind of information, because it's not there. And, you know, my family's coping mechanisms is, you know, you move forward, you don't look back. And if you do, you certainly wouldn't look for something like, where's the witch? You know, you would look for something like, you know,
well, and that has been displaced, right? I mean, like I also will say, I have had these conversations with people in my family where like little glimpses start to come through that show me just how strong the socialization against witches, like just how strong that socialization is even now, to where people, I'm like, you need someone to witch for you. You need someone to see and hold and conjure for you. And you're terrified of asking, or terrified of seeing that this is not at odds with your belief system, but actually really deeply at the root of it, you know? So anyway, I really appreciate everything you said. And one of the reasons I always love talking to you is because I feel like you give it straight, you know, you serve it up straight. It's like, this is what it is. So we named a lot of the ways that you do your work. And I would like for you to share as much as you want to about the ways you do your work. I'm especially interested in the animal communication. And, you know, I've kind of been obsessed. My friend Michaela Harrison is like doing all this work with whales right now and getting messages from them that feel very instructive and very timely. And so I'm really curious about like how that shows up in your life and your work. And if there's particular messages that you're like, these animals want us to know this, right? Or if it's like more like, they're like, my leg hurts, you know? Like, so I'm just curious about that. And like, and yeah, just share as much as you want to about the different kinds of work you do and how.
You know, it's interesting that animal communication is coming up more and more and more lately. And I'm scheming to build out actually an animal communication podcast, because I want to be able to like bring it out more. For a lot of reasons, but a big one is, I think with the climate crisis, we need to be a lot more aware of the humanity in animals and their personhood.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, people sometimes, when I refer to animals as people, they kind of like laugh or kind of like start. And the reality is they're not humans, but they're people. Right. And, you know, humans are not the end all be all. Look around, people. But I digress. You know, the way it worked for me, I'll just kind of go chronologically. I started to learn astrology formally at the same time I started to learn tarot. And it was at that time that my psychic stuff started coming up, but I was smoking a lot of weed. So I didn't believe, you know what I mean? So I wasn't sure. I was like, you know, I'm just high, you know, I don't know if I'm really having a psychic experience.
And I'm having a psychic something.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, I really explained it away. I mean, I am like, I emphatically didn't believe in any of this stuff, anything. Okay. And the reason why I was drawn to astrology is because it's math. And so it's like learning a system that makes sense. Yes. And so And I didn't realize how other people perceived astrology to be super woo-woo and out there. To me, it was just like, oh, this makes perfect sense. This
It's
is a
math.
system. Yeah, it's math. And so in terms of like, I mean, I'm not quite positive what is actually interesting for me to share, but I can say that for me with astrology and tarot, having a tool. So with tarot, which my ladies,
beautiful.
thank you very much. With tarot, what I'm doing essentially, and this isn't how I always use the cards, but it's how I use the cards currently. I'm having a conversation with my guides. My guides can easily communicate with me through cards. It's a quick conversation, bada bing, bada boom, moving along. Yeah. And I like that. And then with us, right? What's not to like? And then with astrology, there's an order. There's like, this is why you're struggling right now. This is why you're thriving. This is how long you got. This is how it's connected to that period 7 years ago and 12 years from now, or whatever. I love that. And so these parts of my practice when I was young made a lot of sense, and they still make a lot of sense. But my psychic abilities, my mediumship abilities, and my animal communication abilities all kind of came through into my awareness in the same period. And for me, when it comes to communicating with the dead, I mean, being psychic, communicating with the dead, communicating with animals, the best way I can describe it is, it's going to sound like I'm going off on a tangent, but I promise you it's not. You know that song Lemonade by Beyonce?
I do.
Okay. So when I bring up Lemonade, you maybe heard the hook in your head, saw the iconic yellow dress, remembered the feeling, the season that song was big for you. Right? All of those things happened. So you saw things, you heard things, you felt things, you knew things.
Yep.
That's what psychic is for me. It's seeing, feeling, knowing on all these levels all at once, really quick. And it's material, but it's immaterial all at once. Beautiful. That's the way I like to describe it, right? It's like, it took me years to figure out how to describe it so that people could get it. And so and I only learned this last year, that not all mediums work the way I do, but the dead it is shocking because again, I don't know a lot of mediums. So I was on a podcast with this man who is a medium and only talks to mediums. And he was like, oh shit, I think he called it, I even blanked out the name, like a natural medium, something like that. But dead people hop in my body. And I have to work really hard to get them out of my body because it's physiologically not good for me. But so dead people have my body. It's quick and easy. Like talking to the dead, looking psychically, communicating with animals for me is, when I say easy, I don't mean without consequence or without effort, but I do mean it's like remembering lemonade, it's right there.
Yeah. It's right there.
And so for me,
it's a distinct imprint for you.
It's just like, it's just like I have to turn my attention in that direction and then it's there. And so in terms of the mediumship, I've really evolved over the course of my adult life around it. And I will say that COVID was a devastating experience. It's not, I want to emphatically say COVID is not over. But the first year with all of the deaths were unlike anything I've ever experienced and ever hoped to experience. It was the dead. There was so much suffering from the dead, and they didn't know where to go. And it was just it was a very difficult time. I was barely able to function in my regular life from it, which has never happened before. And I, again, hope it never happens.
And was it because it was so many so quickly?
Yes. So many, so quickly. So many people died alone and scared. So many people died not believing that COVID was real.
Yes.
So many people, the death itself is a very difficult one as well. So there is just so many dead people every day, all the time. And they're terrified. They were terrified. And so, in this period in the past few years, when I've heard people be like, I want to be a medium, I'm like, fool, Why? You don't,
Oh, yeah.
don't call it, because you can't,
It's more like a gift you learn to carry than a gift you like go seeking.
I mean, some
Right.
people do, but to
Mm.
do that during a pandemic when so many are dying in such a painful way, it's like some doors can't be unopened, and
Yeah.
you got to don't be romantic about this stuff. And a lot of people are romantic. They fantasize about it. They imagine, their hero's arc with it. And it is.
I think they also imagine some control, right?
Yes,
Like, because I feel like it's like, oh, you're learning to wield something, but I don't know if it's ever actually controlled.
No, you don't get to control
Yeah.
it. It's not like I'm like, okay, only people who have like aligned values in politics with me. No, it's everyone. It's not just people who want to be helped. It's people who are desperate to not be helped and to not do anything other than be safe at their own like I have no control over any of that. And I have agency and I have tools, but in a pandemic like we've lived through, I mean, that was, it's indescribable. I don't like to describe it. It is describable, but it just, I don't want to hurt anyone who's already lost someone from COVID. Like, I don't want to make it worse.
No, I mean, it's interesting, right? I lost my uncle. I call him my uncle. He's like my uncle cousin to COVID, and so many others. There's just so many, but I really think about especially those who died in those early months, that very beginning time, because I do think there are people who, even if you didn't believe, if you were far enough along, if you're like 7-9 months into it, where it's like, I don't believe this, in spite of all evidence to the contrary, that's one thing. But I think those early folks who are like, maybe I've heard about this once or twice, I don't think it could have anything to do with my life or the end of my life. Or folks who, I just keep talking to people now who are like, yeah, I realized I got COVID before we knew what it was, or I think that's how I lost this person, and so on and so forth. So I appreciate the tenderness of trying to move through that, and the responsibility, living in the world right now where people are still either in denial or still like, it's okay, having this many people die every day of it is an acceptable loss, and we're not going to keep, taking precautions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's like, oh, what is the kind of information that could help people hold that differently.
Yeah.
But you're not necessarily the kind of person who folks would like go and listen to and be like, how is it for these folks? Right.
Yeah.
So I just feels like such a bind in a way. Right?
It is. And also it is a problem that people need to be essentially threatened in order to care about others. And, and to me, really, really at the core of being, there's so many ways to be a witch. There's so many ways to be a spiritual person. There's so many ways to be somebody who works with magical elements, vaguely spoken. And I think that there's a misconception that it has anything to do with kindness, because it doesn't. It has nothing to do with kindness. You can be a terrible person and abuse power. You can be a shallow person. And the truth of the matter is, I wish that those of us who had access to any amount of access to awareness about people beyond the 3D, that it would instantly translate to empathy, but it doesn't. And that is, honestly, like one of the hardest things for me about COVID has been my incredible disappointment in the lack of care from people who call themselves spiritual. It's like to call yourself spiritual and to not mask up in public it's ableist, it's racist, it's disassociated. It's a lot of really problematic things. And we are living through a time where there's been this explosion of con spirituality through QAnon and all this shit. And a lot of people who have nefarious intentions, and a lot of people have perfectly good intentions, but are really going for posy vibes only, which requires a form of individualism that comes at the expense of the most vulnerable people amongst us. And that is not spiritual. That is individualism. And, you can put a wide brim hat on it, you can talk about human design about it, you can do Reiki on your bestie about it, but it doesn't change what it is. We can use spirituality for great evil. I mean, look at Hitler. He was a very spiritual dude and a vegan, wasn't he? Like, doesn't mean shit. Like it's not that it doesn't mean shit. It means it's not enough. It's not enough. And I will tell you, I mean, I encountered a lot of people who died of COVID who had all the evidence and didn't believe it and were fucking furious.
Yes.
Furious. And that just says a lot about us. But like a lot.
We're such a strange species in that particular way.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
And I think, and I just want to share like one other things, not about mediumship, although I'm happy to talk about that more, which is, I think that in terms of animal communication, I'm trying to find the right words to say it, but we all have our pocket robots. Everybody's yelling at everybody all the time. There's all this noise all the time. And when it comes to communicating with animals, it's about getting spacious and listening.
Yeah.
And it's not about talking. It's about receiving. It's about being present with and open to. And that is such a massive shift for most people and how they live out of necessity or choice, right? That I think animal communication is like a good practice for people to investigate and try to adopt, even if it doesn't flow easily, because it's not quote unquote meditating, which is hard for a lot of people who are like me, who are like zip, 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 zip in the brain, right? I mean, I have a hard time with slowing down, but tapping in and really receiving, there's like gifts in it in addition to being able to communicate with a bunny or a cat or whatever. You know what I mean?
I really do. And I really appreciate that. I was going to ask you, what's a skill that you wish everyone had in this time? And that feels like one, right? It's just tapping in and listening, because there's something that I'm also tuning into after years and years of organizing and movement work, where there was so much I was like, I'm going to fix and change and save and fix and change and save and save and fix and change and fix and change. I'm going to get it together for all the species. And that I recognize now, I wasn't listening a ton inside of that, or I was listening for the language that aligned with what I wanted to hear and that indicated a move towards where I wanted to go. And I think that's why, a lot of what has played out in the past 10 years has been quite surprising to a lot of people in movement, right? And it's not because we don't have a great analysis and great thoughts and all that kind of thing, but I think that listening piece, now so many of the organizers I really respect are like, we got to listen. We have to really listen in a different way. And I think there's, when I think of the spiritual, what I think is what connects us all. What is it? What is the way that we are connected to each other? And really, that's the simplest meaning of it to me. It's like the way we're all connected, and then getting quieter to feel for the way that we're all connected. Like even the people who feel oppositional, I'm like, okay, I am connected to this person who doesn't believe that human impact on the earth is creating consequences for us. I'm connected to that person. What do I need to do about that? Right. And is there anything about that connection that could yield a better outcome for both of us? Is this just going to play out? Like, how do I be in it? And I feel like I have more questions each day than answers. And my divination yields more questions a lot of times. And, I'm just sort of like, I used to be able to speak with such authority, right? I had such a sense of knowing. And now a lot of that's falling away. And it's like, I see and I feel and I'm being in this world. And, I got a lot of questions.
Yeah. I think that's closer to the truth. It is closer to the truth. And I noticed a number of years ago, less than 10, but I noticed a number of years ago that a lot of people in activist spaces and social justice spaces we're opening and turning to spirituality, at least in more public.
Oh, yes.
Because of the level of burnout, because of how terrible the world is, and also our constant access to how terrible the world is. And
yes,
in order to sustain great effort, we must tend to the soul, we must tend to the body, we must tend to the heart, and we must tend to our own trauma. And,
yes.
you know, I think that, you know, people are always asking me, like, you know, what do you say to people who don't like astrology or are not into psychic stuff? And I'm always like, I don't say anything. You don't have to like what I like. You don't have to be what I am. Like, it's all good. But I do think that there's so much power in accessing something more, and acknowledging our connections. And I don't think it's important how we do it. Personally, I think I have preferences, you know, personal preferences, but it's about respecting that we all get to be individuals in that way, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think about this, you know, because for a long time I was like, I don't know. I feel drawn towards astrology, even when I'm like reading astrology. I'm like, this one is not adding up. But then I come across folks like you, or like Chani, or like Naimonu James, or other readers where I'm like, everything you're saying is really resonating throughout my life. And it's helping me understand what's going on. And I'm like, if we believe that the moon can pull the tides, then,
right.
You know, to me, I'm just like, we are also salt water, and we are impacted by celestial bodies. And that's all it is. Right.
Yeah.
And trying to, you know, tell the story of that, you know, makes a difference. And I'm like, and even with that, there's a million ways to tell that story. And that's where it gets fun and interesting to me. But yeah, I guess I just mostly want to, as we sort of conclude this piece of conversation, say, I'm so grateful for the way you do your work, and for the fact that you are like, I'm bringing my attention to those who are interested in this practice and interested in learning with me and learning more about the questions we need to be asking ourselves in this time. And I wish you well with the animal communication podcast. And, you know, I want to put you in touch with Michaela now, obviously, and just be, she's always like, these telepathic whales are very communicative.
Whales are very communicative.
They're so communicative. She's been teaching me. And so I was recently in a place where I was like singing to these whales, and they were like jumping all around me in circles. And I was just like, yeah,
that's amazing.
It was really outstanding. Right.
Yes.
But I'm like, I'm glad that I have been given the technology to believe that what I feel is happening in this moment is happening. Like that. I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to make a different story up about it. I invited, I got an answer, I can feel it, and we are here together. And that's the good news. So yay us, yay mediums, yay magic. I'm going to read a poem, because this is one of my practices right now for fables and spells. So I'm going to read this poem. We are recording this on a full moon day. And the poem I'm going to read is called "The Moon is a Perfect Moon." Okay. So Virgo, it's the full moon in Virgo. So perfection. Even when you are only partially touched by the searing sun, meaning even when you seem marked by shadow, you take my breath away. Cresting the horizon, the shade of the word harvest, diaphanous fog gown of eyelash reaching out with diffuse and tumultuous light, worthy of worship. I can feel my own dim edges, what is untouched in me, not forever, but right now, the weight of shadow pulling me under into that breathless, choiceless place. I've lost track of the horizon, barreling around the bend with all I have, fingers pressing through the gray, only to find myself tonight still asking, am I, so imperfect, also worthy of worship? From afar, you dazzle, pure and bright-faced, pulling the tides around even your waning curves. I see the salt water trying to be a circle for you. Up close, you are craggy, rocky, bleak impressions, pools of dust everywhere, monotonous, barely holding on to those who came all this way to see you, aloof, boundaried, hollow, and dry. I do know how to shine. Sometimes I feel the extending beam of love streaming out from my partial face, bursting beyond my veins in a hoop of lightning. Up close, I am pockmarked, wrinkled, my skin sallow, dark crevices beneath my eyes, rote, the familiar all I can handle these days. Leave me be in my orbit, watching the world change while I cling to the small joy of known circles. I think I know you because of the nights spent staring into the portal that is also always you. I sometimes feel alone in the gravity, the earth, my sun, and me, hushed, obsessed. Even when I am to disappear, I am a body dancing within her rhythm. I feel most beautiful naked in the dark of a candle, the brightness of my inner thighs flooding the sea.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you, my love.
Mm.
I'm just like a moon worshiping bitch. Although, I think I told you this, that I think the whole first section of my life was a moon obsession. And then this past year, as I turned 44, I just entered into a sun phase, and it felt so distinct and so clear that that's what was happening. And so I'm like, I'm still rocking with the moon, and I'm loving the moon. And the phase of my life, the work of my life, is to learn how to shine not as a reflection, but as a source.
Yes.
So sitting with that.
I love that. I really love that. And where is your moon? I forget. Scorpio. Oh yeah. Scorpio Virgo is so nice together.
It's such a great combo. Me and
it's
Beyonce.
Such a great combo. Oh really? Oh, that's nice. I mean,
it's pleasant, Yeah. So I question for you. One thing that we do on the podcast often before we wrap up is we ask people their top culture. Like, is there something you're watching these days or reading, or a favorite person online or music or something like that?
Oh, it's just like, goodness. Oh, that's exciting. What a great question. And I didn't prepare for it. Oh my God. There's too many things.
Cultural delights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Tiara Whack. I'm obsessed with her right now. Obsessed.
It's a really good obsession.
Really good obsession. Petite Noir dropped a record recently. Do you like him?
I haven't listened to Petite Noir.
Petite Noir, you will love.
I will love. Okay,
Blurry
great.
is the most recent, but I just love his stuff.
Okay, great.
So
I'm writing it down.
Those are two musical obsessions right now. I'm also taking singing lessons, so that's kind of like a fun in the middle of it all moment.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's actually my first hobby unrelated to my work in my life.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, it's good. And then
to the jungle.
Thank you. Who knew? Creativity is not just for people who are not me. And then I feel like, okay, so I do listen to a lot of news podcasts and I read a lot of news. That's what I spend a lot of my day doing, which I don't feel like I feel a little frustrated right now with everything.
Yeah.
So that's really a shame, I will say. But this is not a good answer, but I'm going to give it anyways. Any person that I hear or see talking about, writing about, whatever, continuing to mask in public spaces, community care.
Yes.
I'm a fan. I'm like an instant fan. So yeah, to me, that's, it's different than like Petite Noir, but it is that great.
But it is actually about culture. It's like, how do we shape a culture where we start to normalize this as a choice in a political condition where it's being framed as something to be offended by? I'm like, how would you be offended by me protecting you from my germs?
Jesus Christ. And also,
how would you be offended by me protecting you from my germs?
I would listen to that song on repeat. Let's press that as a record. Okay,
perfect.
I would definitely get that recorded. I would just. Okay, good. That makes me happy. And I feel like there's something else I could say, but let me think if there's anything else that I could throw into the mix. If you'd asked me this question last week, I would have had all these things at the tip of my brain, but
really,
for me, I get very like aesthetically driven by something and then I completely take a 90-degree angle.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
So
this is good. You gave me great things. This is great.
There's this one song though. Can I just find it? And so I can just tell you how obsessed I am with it.
Yeah, find it.
I'm going to find it and tell it to you because I'm obsessed with it and I've forgotten what it's called. And I want you to be able to enjoy it. You probably already know it, but I'm still gonna.
But just in case.
Just in case.
What if I don't?
What if you don't? Selfish Soul by Sudan Archives.
I don't know it. Okay. Selfish Soul.
Yeah, that's the song, and it's Sudan Archives or Sudan Archives. I don't know how you would say it properly.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm really excited for you.
I love that feeling where you're like, you don't know yet, and I do.
I know you're going to be so happy. It's great. It's great.
Okay, beautiful.
What about you? Wonderful. Can I ask you the same question?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really interesting. So there's this artist named Sufjan Stevens who I love, and he makes this sort of magical, ethereal music that is just, it's like ethereal pop, but he just has this light, beautiful voice. And I got to sing with him some backup vocals for his next album. And I just got the preview album. They're like, here, you can listen to it beforehand. Yeah. It's not coming out until September, October or something. So I've been listening to it on repeat. And it's one of the most frustrating things because I'm like, everybody, this is top culture. And it's like, it's not going to be out. No one's going to be able to hear it for months.
What are they called again?
Sufjan Stevens is the artist name. And then the music, the album is called Javelin. So when that album comes out, you heard it here first.
Okay, that's exciting.
That album is stunning. So that's one of my top culture pieces. And then what else? I've been going on this. I watched Yellowstone with my family, and it's really this. I was like, I don't know. Is this conservative propaganda? Is it the worst thing that ever happened? I don't know, but it's this show about a mafia family in Montana. Basically, a mafia family. They made their own Western cowboy mafia out there, and you're watching them kind of explode and fall apart. But it's also about how they love the land, and they love the nature. They love their horses, and they love their cattle. And then there's this whole indigenous storyline, and which I need to talk. I need to find out. I'm like, how is this landing for people? Because a lot of what they're exposing is this is how unfair and unequal all of this stuff is. It's just, I'm quite surprised. It's Kevin Costner stars in it. Yeah, I did not expect to like it. I got kind of talked into it by someone that I was seeing, and then hooked into it. And then my parents started watching it. And so now it's y'all, there's this character named Beth Dutton who I don't know. I'm just oh, I wish I had a setting, a Beth Dutton setting that I could activate sometime. That's just how to rip someone a new one in real time. Oh, wow. I don't have that, right? In me, it'll occur to me several days later, and I'm okay, I've just got to write it into some character or something. Cause all that in the moment, if someone offends or says something horrible to me, I'm just I'm going to pray for you. I feel so sad for that. Your spirit is full of such hate. Yeah. And hers is I hope, I literally can't even repeat the stuff. It's so counter to me. But when I watch it, I'm it's invigorating, I think, to see such an oppositional energy. So anyway, those are some of my top cultures right now. And
it's beautiful.
This has been the bomb. I love you. I think you're the best. And everyone who's listening in, I hope that you're really enjoying this exploration of this territory and this terrain. And just notice as you're listening, if it's pulling anything up in you, if you're ooh, what this person said, what that person said, what Jessica said, it resonates with something in myself that maybe I haven't let come forward, or I haven't let be in the light, or I haven't acknowledged as actually a power that I also hold. Because I'm really intentionally trying to bring us out into the light.
Shake these bones, oh, I gotta shake these bones, oh, I gotta shake these bones, oh, I gotta shake these bones. Shake these bones, oh, I gotta shake these bones, oh, I gotta shake these bones.
Thanks for listening to our show. This is Autumn. I'm on sabbatical, but I can't stay away. And I'm here to tell you that we are on Twitter and Instagram at End of the World PC. We're also on Facebook at End of the World Show. You can make a sustaining donation to our show by visiting our page at patreon.com/endoftheworldshow. Another incredibly helpful thing you can do to help our show sustain itself is to write us a review on Apple Podcasts if you're an iPhone person. Thank you. How to Survive the End of the World is produced and edited by the incomparable Zach Rosen and transcribed by Liz Furtick. Music for today's show comes from Tunde Olaniran and the Bangsons.
Shake, shake, shake.